Welcome to Slash Forward. In this episode, we're going to explore the chaotic void of our minds with the 1997 sci-fi horror film Event Horizon. Let's get to it. We open on an age-old classic. Reading, just what we prefer in our visual media. It's telling a quaint tale of the Event Horizon, an exploratory ship that disappeared just beyond Neptune. Oh wait, there it is! They take this opportunity to show how far video toasters have advanced since Jurassic Park, and that is some good-looking zero-gravity detritus if I've ever seen it. We then transition to the Lewis and Clark, a rescue ship on a secret mission, staffed by your typical space jockey meathead crew. They're all preparing to go into stasis for the long journey to Neptune. We focus in on Dr. Weir, designer of the Event Horizon, waking up in the midst of a nightmare before waking up again in real life. As they all come out of stasis, they immediately set to the task of character building and exposition. Dr. Weir finally tells them why they're on a trip to Neptune, because apparently they're so cynical of space travel that it's not cool enough just to visit Neptune for its own sake. They're there on a salvage mission for the Event Horizon, a ship they all understand to have disappeared years ago. They have to salvage it for its gravity drive, which allows the ship to fold space-time and engage in deep space travel. Now back from parts unknown, they have to figure out what happened, but with only a short recording to start with. Hey, he sounds great! When they nestle into the turbulent atmosphere, they get back to business, and Weir talks about the ship like it's a damn velociraptor.
There she is.
They do a quick scan, only finding trace signs of life, but all over the ship. Verifying its relative cleanliness, they begin docking in a semi-erotic fashion, and then the boarding crew goes to secure the ship. It appears to be empty, allowing them the luxury of appreciating the gothic aesthetic and funhouse tunnel. They attempt to pull the most recent ship log, reassuring us all that physical media will be alive and well in the future. They manage to find one body from the original crew, while Justin is seduced by the gravity drive, and forced to gaze into the abyss, confronting man's existential insignificance in the face of an endless cold, violent void. This ends up creating some feedback that catastrophically damages the Lewis and Clark, forcing the crew to transition to the Event Horizon. They bring it online and then debrief. No communications available and limited breathable air, which gives them a time limit on fixing the Clark and figuring out why Justin has become so morose. Peters works on cleaning up the log while keeping an eye on Justin. She's distracted by a noise and investigates it, only to be greeted by a vision of her son with some gnarly scabies on his legs. They then experience a power dip from the core activating itself and have to run off to fix it. This causes Justin's rabies to flare up and results in Dr. Weir having his own disturbing vision. Miller is waiting outside and sees a disturbance in the water as well, which ends up being Burning Man. They consult the medical technician DJ, who insults them all by suggesting they've had hallucinations. They're far too rational for that, you see. As they slowly succumb to their base emotions, the level of their hissy fits grows worse. They've got to figure this out. Stark suggests that the ship is overtaken by a life form and is having antibody reactions to their presence. But Miller's got no time for sci-fi nonsense. Things quiet down again momentarily until Peters goes on another vision quest, but this time they're all affected, and Dr. Weir learns about self-control. They find Justin in the airlock and try to get him to come back inside. He makes like he's going to listen to him, but then psychs them out in the prank of the century. He immediately regrets his decision, however, when he realizes the consequences only really impact him. He tries to hold in his fluids, but they're coming out of every hole. Meanwhile, Miller gets on course to intercept and manages to get him back on board. And only 80% dead. Good work, crew. They continue to look for answers, but are unable to find any. Miller then explains his hallucination, which is based on a time he was unable to save a crew member from a space fire. DJ then confirms the earlier recording they found has a distinctive Latin phrase that requests,
Save yourself from hell.
And then they both get goose pimples and agree how spooky this all is. When word comes in the repairs are done, they pressurize the Clark and have to patch a small hole, but are otherwise good to go. They get done cleaning up the video and take a peek, only to discover the crew had spent their last minutes doing a fan reenactment of the movie Salo. Now determined to get off the ship immediately, lest they be seduced into the despicable act of group sex, they start taking what they need and heading back to the Clark. Weir is sensitive about saving the Event Horizon, but Miller unwisely confirms his intent to blow this bitch, causing things to get somewhat intense with Daddy Weir and resulting in an aggressive response by the ship. Weir then gives a strong indication of his loyalties. As a result, Peters gets lured with a vision of her son that causes her to take a long walk off a short bridge and ragdoll her way down to the catwalk below. Smith is finishing his prep of the Clark when he sees Weir acting strange. He calls it into Miller, who notices one of the emergency explosives is missing and recommends Smith vacate. Having never really been a fan of the Horizon, Smith tries to save the Clark by looking for the bomb, but doesn't find it in time. Or just in time, depending on your perspective. Miller puts out an APB for Weir, and DJ decides to take on this responsibility, and despite his initial enthusiasm, he almost instantly fails. Weir plays Operation with his body, with magnificent results. Miller is in on the hunt for Weir, and in the process finds Stark. And Weir. Hey, you look great!
Where we're going, we won't need eyes to see.
That's fantastic. Weir confirms the new plan is to go back to the Chaos Dimension. Removing any remaining doubt, he's Team Event Horizon. They take a crack at it, but he starts popping off rivets, depressurizing the command room and leading to one of these classic indoor tornado scenes that we're all so familiar with. It goes exactly as you'd expect. There's an unexpected airlock alert, which ends up just being Cooper, back from his spacewalk. Now together, they have to blow the safety explosives to separate the lifeboat from the rest of the ship and get away from the gravity drive. As they prep, the crew is menaced with puddles of blood, confirming that Stark's most traumatic experience was watching The Shining as a kid. They're ready to go, but Miller finds himself face to face with the gravity drive when Weir shows back up. They have the standard conversation about sacrifice and despair, whether the other is going to make it out and if it matters, etc. Weir shows him some sights, but Miller has stalled long enough to complete the countdown, allowing them to blow the joint. This saves Cooper, Stark, and Justin, but damns Miller to hell. 72 days later, after another waking nightmare, we find that they've been discovered and rescued. Or have they? And the credits roll to music that could have only existed within a small window of time in 1997. And that was Event Horizon, an often overlooked sci-fi horror movie that turned out way better than it seems possible on paper. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.